Welcome to Interior Analysis. I'm Evan Westman. Today we're going to be doing Endgame, and I'm joined again by Jelani Kelly.
Hello.
And we're also joined by Michael Raffle.
Hello.
Before we get into the analysis of it, let's just, since this is only about 2 weeks since it came out, let's just get some first reactions. So Mike, you saw this, you saw it before the broad release on
I saw it the Tuesday, the week it was released, so I saw it about 3 days before the rest of the public.
Do you feel like that was different as an experience? Just
I mean, it was definitely an experience, to say nonetheless. I've gone to early screenings for other films to write for the Triangle, but for something like Endgame, there are so many super fans and, top tier reviewers and writers. It was definitely an interesting experience that was different from anything I've previously done.
For anyone who hasn't actually seen Endgame, first of all, stop listening because we're going to spoil everything for you, but then come back later. But if you haven't seen it, Mike's review that we'll link to in the show notes is pretty good for summing up kind of how the movie is and not spoiling anything that happens. So if you're looking to get amped up for it but haven't seen it yet, might be a good place to start. Was there anything special about your experience seeing it?
Going into the theater was a little bit different because this was kind of a Marvel organized early screening, so that we had to go through a process where we had to put all of our devices into a separate bag, and they had to staple it shut and put it to the side. So it was kind of a real deal when it came to this movie and Thanos demands your silence. So. And
then Jay, you saw it opening weekend, right?
Opening weekend that Saturday. We couldn't get any seats next to each other for that Friday. I pre-ordered tickets a few days after the tickets were available, and I was scared after seeing the first few showings for that Friday because I didn't think we were going to be able to sit together and experience it as a group. I went with my friends, but yeah. We found seats. It was at 10:15 p.m. but we found seats.
Yeah, I did basically the same thing a few days later. We bought our tickets. I went with 6 other people, and we bought ours 2-3 weeks out. But we got there really early, thinking that maybe they actually hadn't opened the theater yet for us. I was glad that I went with people who were kind of bigger fans than I was, though, because it helped me appreciate it more. Having people around me get more into it, got me more into it, I thought. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is true of, people who are kind of just going to see it who aren't fans, but, in my theater, there were, cheers at several points.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that was the case for you, Mike. Everyone who showed up to yours was probably, major fans.
Yeah, it was. There were a lot of major fans, and I was fortunate enough to also bring a plus one, so I brought my roommate, Will, and he is a large comic book fan, specifically DC, but he also does read Marvel. He has a really good relationship, specifically with Iron Man, so this movie meant a lot to him.
So what were Jay, you wanted this as a topic, just everyone picking their favorite moments. So I'm sure we have some overlap, but let's just go through real quick before we look into some of our topics.
Avengers Assemble.
Solid, yeah.
Definitely.
That nearly made me cry for some reason, but it was more a heck yeah moment instead of a oh no.
The group shot leading up to that.
Yeah.
I don't think it actually got all of them. I found a copy of that today. It doesn't. There's a few people missing from it, but it was still pretty cool. Just getting however many of them all in that one spot.
Yeah, I think that was a moment that got cheers from the audience for me, for my theater.
Probably didn't mind too.
One of my favorite moments that kind of ties in a little bit to that. It happened a couple minutes after. Was probably the A-Force. The female superhero gathering, defending Peter Parker.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and it was much more organic than it could have been. I thought it actually fit well and wasn't outspoken.
Yeah.
You kind of had to know the people there to really notice it, I think. I mean, everyone I saw would have picked up on it, but they were also, all on board. Mm-hmm. So I was a little disappointed that ended so fast, though. It was,
yes.
5 or 10 seconds that they're fighting through the force, and then Captain Marvel just blitzes through.
It kind of reminded me of during Infinity War when they were on, I think it was Titan, and all of them were on top of Thanos, kind of doing what they do specifically to hold him down right before they almost get the gauntlet. And it was just a taste. A-Force, that scene, and it was a little bit short, but I think they're kind of prepping us for something to come in the future.
Is that going to be... I've never heard that term used,
Yeah,
A-Force.
what is A-Force?
Oh, I'm sorry. A-Force is the female group of Marvel. So
Why is it called that?
I do not know. I get them confused with the A-Team a lot.
The Avengers Force?
It's a good moment.
Yeah, it was a good moment. I do wish they'd kind of made a little more of like a fight scene from it, though. As it was just like, all right, gear up to go, and then kind of nothing happened.
They just kind of ran, and then that was it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that A-Force was a thing.
Yeah, that was actually told to me again by my roommate Will. He got the reference, and he was really, really happy to see that kind of form as kind of like a wink to hopefully what they're going to make in the future Marvel movies.
Yeah, obviously, though, that was a little incomplete because you're missing Black Widow in that group, who is the first one. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I guess that's a good transition into one of my favorite scenes, was the Hawkeye and Black Widow fight.
Okay.
I'm not the most invested in these characters, at least not nearly as much as I think some people are. But I like that they included that moment. I also liked that Black Widow was the one who died, because Hawkeye was the one who had something to live for. And she seems like she's got like more demons in her past or something. I'm not totally up on it. But that was a great moment, I thought. Especially when I think most people kind of knew that was going to happen a little before it did. Because obviously we knew from Infinity War that like that's how you get the Soul Stone, is that someone has to die.
I do, though, have a problem with that, in the sense that how could they have not considered that to be an option before they went?
I don't think anybody on the team knew, though.
Nebula knew.
Oh.
Nebula knew, and knew Gamora had to die.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
That was my only qualm. It was like, it's the Soul Stone. A soul might be involved, and what was it, 5 years later?
Yeah.
When they did this? So that was something
I do think that pragmatically, it would have been a good decision for Nebula to not tell them, and as the only person who knew about it. Although I do agree that in 5 years it probably would have come up, even though none of the rest of them except Rocket knew who Gamora was.
That's true.
So
that is a good point.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a plot hole there, but excusable. Made for a good scene.
Definitely.
So
I thought at first they were trying to kill each other, but then I remembered,
too.
Oh wait, they're heroes. They're trying to sacrifice themselves.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to throw each other off the cliff.
yeah, that was such an interesting twist, though, on like a typical fight scene, that like they're just trying to knock each other down so that they can sacrifice themselves.
I didn't understand what was actually going on until I saw Hawkeye shoot at Black Widow when she was running towards the edge, and it knocked her over. That was when I was like, okay, they're fighting to kill themselves, which is, it's like a little bit of dark comedy because it's kind of ridiculous, but it's also like super serious and this needs to happen. Yeah. So
Major
it was a
emotional
whole mix of emotions.
And Red Skull was just watching them in the back the whole time. Another favorite moment, obviously, Cap wielding Mjolnir.
That was a good one. A lot of people were saying like, predicted it, because apparently there's that one scene in Age of Ultron where he almost does it. That apparently people have been like, oh, is that something? I kind of didn't buy into it. I also didn't see Ultron, but I know of the scene. Was a cool moment, though.
Yeah, Age of Ultron is, you don't have to see it in order to see this. So
that was kind of the impression I got.
I thought it was kind of it was coming. Like, I knew he was going to end up being, worthy. And I kind of expected it to come in Endgame, especially after an Age of Ultron when they wiggled at it, just so they could have that setup of Thor being like, I knew it, because he was so insecure to begin with about being the worthy one.
That must have been intentional, though. Like, I don't think they would have just included that moment. I mean, obviously it's included for fun, but it's also it's too intentional to not be intentional. Not really big moment, but I enjoyed it when Captain America finds out how annoying he is when he fights himself, and he's like, I can do this all day. Yeah, I know you can. And it's like, all right, now you kind of get it. You can be kind of annoying to be around.
But that was a badass fight sequence.
Yeah,
I liked it.
And then that's America's ass.
Yes, great line. My last one that, I don't know if it's a moment exactly, but I think one of everyone's favorites was the I love you 3000 line. I think a lot of people have been referencing that this past week.
I guess it's like kind of dark, but just a moment I really liked in the film was after the snap to bring everything back, and there were the birds and the butterflies, and Ant-Man was looking out the window, and then it goes to Hulk, and he's looking up at the skylight, and you can see the missile coming in
from
Thanos' ship.
Yeah, great reversal there.
It was silent and beautiful to watch, but terrifying when you realized what it was.
Right. Especially that was a great reversal too, because it was like they won, but then also like I hadn't really like caught up mentally enough to realize that like, oh wait, even though they just won, they have all 6 Infinity Stones in one place, which is bad because, you know, Thanos shows up and it's like they've done all the work for him.
You know what? It wasn't really a favorite moment. It was just really intense. I feel like I was short of breath during the scene. But when the big three, Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America, were first facing off against Thanos, and he kept like knocking them down one by one, and I was so terrified, you know, one of them was going to die at some point because he was just battering them over and over. I feel like what was going to happen was like the Thanos and Iron Man fight when he stabbed him in the
from
side.
Infinity War.
Yeah, like there was huge gasp in the audience when that happened back with Infinity War because everybody thought, oh, he's dead.
That scene was, I thought it was good. They didn't like explicitly call it out, but it's kind of a callback to the first Avengers movie where the three of them are fighting against each other when Thor first shows up.
Oh, okay.
They didn't like push the parallels, but I thought it was kind of interesting. Like you see like how far they've come, kind of. So, Mike, your first topic you wanted to talk about was the opening and like getting to Thanos. So, you actually want to say?
So, more specifically, the very opening of the film with Hawkeye and his family, I thought was very impactful, and I thought it was a pretty good place to start, especially because we didn't see any of Hawkeye really in Infinity War. As soon as we saw him with his family, everyone in the theater knew exactly what was going to be happening, and it still hit everyone in the theater once again, just like back in Infinity War, the repercussions of the snap. And I think it's taken me some time to realize how much of an impact that did have on Hawkeye to push him to that, that brink. So that is what I wanted to really just kind of note on in terms of the opening. And then after that would be going to Thanos.
Yeah. You're kind of making me think of this now. Like, Hawkeye gets hit really hard by the snap. Like, some people, I mean, we don't get to see, like, that broad the impacts, but how many kids does he have in the scene there? Like 3 or 4? Like,
3.
And all of them are
his
gone.
daughter and 2 sons.
Yeah.
Like, all of them get snapped. He got hit much harder than I'm sure a lot of people did, just in terms of probability.
You know what was weird with my audience? They were like no gasps or anything whatsoever. Like there was no reaction. Like almost like people expected it to happen. Like, oh, they're showing his family. Oh, we know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I remember when they first showed him with his daughter in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Almost immediately after seeing that, I remember someone saying to me, "Oh yeah. That's going to be when he gets the snap happen to him."
So they get together. Carol Danvers, Captain America, flies in. They have a little rendezvous or whatever, and they really kind of get to the point and just really go after Thanos. And it was actually kind of surprising how quickly they got to that. Yeah. But I really enjoyed it because it was kind of a middle finger to the fans in the sense of giving us everything we want in the first 15 minutes.
Right, yeah. It was a really fast start, especially for a 3-hour movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys, just kind of a side note, do you remember exactly when the title sequence happens? Because I think it's before they go to Thanos initially. Am I right about that?
I don't remember.
Probably.
If, like, fans who haven't seen it yet or who remember, please email in answers for that. Because I feel like there was something there with, like, the psych out with when the title is. Because, I don't know, I stereotypically think of, like, when the title sequence happens, if it's not at the end, or if it's not like The Departed, where it takes, like, 20 minutes before they show the title. Mm-hmm. That's kind of, like, things sort of start moving there. And if I remember correctly, it happens before they, like, just before they go to attack Thanos, basically. And I was kind of thinking that, like, okay, now, like, the rest of the movie's pretty much going to be them going to try to reverse the snap. Which, in a way, it is, but then they get there and they've failed. They did a really good job convincing us that, like, this was going to work. So we're kind of on the same page as them when they do fail. Mm-hmm. It's like, really unexpected.
Yeah, you mean when they couldn't do anything with the stones because they...
Right, because they were gone.
The entire time, I was expecting him to, like, shift reality. Like when he did with Gamora in Infinity War and Quill. Like, I was expecting reality to change, and like, oh yeah, there it is. You know, they didn't actually kill him.
Oh, I wasn't thinking of that, but that would have been a good
I was
move.
thinking he was using the Reality Stone the whole time. And I was like, this isn't Thanos. This guy's... He's kind of just taking it. You know? But I think at that point, you know, he was really content, so he didn't really care what happened to him.
Right. Plus, he's living alone on his farm. Like,
he knew they
not
couldn't
missing
do
out
anything.
on a lot.
And he knew they couldn't do anything to reverse it. He was like, oh, guess I'll die. So...
Yeah. Well, also with him... I thought it was a little bit of a rash decision to kill him so quickly because, like, I thought maybe he was bluffing. Maybe there's some way that he knows to get him back. And if he's dead, he can't tell them.
Hit him amongst the crops or something.
Would have been a weird flex, but okay.
What kind of fruit was he growing? Did you see that? It was like an egg.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they just had that so they could have the classic shot of him with, like, the waist-length
Stroke
that he was...
Yeah.
That's such an overused shot, though. Like, the hand dragging through the wheat. Just in general. Yeah. That was really interesting, the way that they started off and, like, got back to Thanos so quickly. That was at least not how I expected it to go.
It took everyone for a surprise, because you didn't know where they were going to go from there up until, you know, you get the 5 years later card. But even before that, I was talking, you know, before I went into the movie with my roommate about, you know, what should have been done in Infinity War and what the fans have been saying. And, you know, like, why didn't they cut off his arm? Why didn't they cut off his head? And that's literally the first thing they do when they go to Thanos, you know. And I thought, again, that was kind of like telling the fans, like, we get what you're saying. This is what happened. Now we're done. Let me tell you our story. And I really liked that because it kind of made you have to sit down, re-sit down and, like, start the story over again.
Yeah. Also, just... I remember that the way they show the 5 years later, it's like they just show the number 5, and then I remember, like, when the years came up, like, there were a lot of reactions in the audience. I was like, holy crap, 5 years? Like, they spent that long. I really like that they do that they give a lot of time to deal with the aftermath of the snap, because it intuitively, I think everyone coming into this movie knew that, like, it was gonna, like, we were gonna reverse what happened in Infinity War and they were going to win. But I wasn't expecting that they were going to kind of feel the impact of the loss like they do. Because in the trailers it was all like, all right, let's go get him. Which is basically what they do in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't work.
I liked seeing, I think it was Captain America, in the support group.
Yes.
Like, showing the heroes in a different light, that they're not just action heroes. They're like, they were being supportive with all the people that, you know, were also affected by the snap. I just liked seeing that.
I thought that was a good scene, too, because it was like, it kind of showed the broad impact, but it was also, it was showing the broad impact on a personal level with, I mean, he was a character we'd never met before. And I think, actually, he's played by one of the Russo brothers. I don't know which one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy in the support group.
It was Joe.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know them apart, but I recognize the face. It kind of made me think, though, that, like, I kind of thought of this at the end of Infinity War, but it came out a little more so with this, is that the snap is a lot, it feels a lot like 9/11. Like, I think we would react to that kind of event the way that we did to 9/11. It's not a thing where, like, we're impacted necessarily by the scale of it on a day-to-day basis. But the thing about it was, like, I mean, for 9/11, I feel like within America, basically everyone knows someone who got killed in the plane attack. And in this case, it's even broader. It's like everyone had someone they lost. So it's not really about the scale. It's that there is a personal stake in it for every person. And I like that they felt it that way instead of focusing on, like, I don't know, what world leaders were doing, which I think is the route that a lot of other movies would have taken.
Even going off of world leaders, shit kind of hit the fan. Like, Thanos' plan didn't necessarily play out as he intended, at least from what we saw after the snap. You know, much of the world was, you know, in chaos and falling apart, infrastructure and things of that, just after 5 years. So I just thought that was an interesting point that was made, that even though Thanos was so content, it really didn't leave everyone for the better.
Well, no, I mean, that's a lot of reason why I think they went back. Although I think it would be interesting to see, maybe as like a TV show, dealing with the aftermath of the snap. I don't feel like that's really the right tone for Marvel, because, like, what are you going to have, like, how do you incorporate any major characters into that? But I think that's a good premise for a TV show. Maybe not for this specific event, but yeah.
I think it's crazy that he only based his whole ideal and plan off of what happened on his home planet, and then after he does the snap, he doesn't even go to other planets to see how they're doing after the snap, to see that his plan worked.
Yeah, not even out of, like, just interest.
Yeah, exactly. He just goes back to his farm and is like, well, I did it, so...
Let me caress my weeds and chill in
grab,
my tent.
Grab my little dragon fruit or whatever that was.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, that is interesting that he didn't go and look.
To see if he was right or wrong. He just assumed he was right. He just went back to his farm.
This is a lot about his character that most people probably don't pay attention to.
Yeah.
I also wonder, like, did he want to find, like, did he have anyone that he might have risked snapping there and, like, that he wanted to check in on? My favorite thing that they did with the aftermath of the snap, though, was the contrast between Hawkeye and Tony Stark with the way they dealt with it, because both of them later on, after Scott comes back and they realize they have a second chance, both of them say no, but they say it for opposite reasons, because you've got Clint, who lost his entire family, and now kind of it's just him, and he's basically reverting back to, like, an older, worse version of himself. And one of his first lines to Natasha is, "Don't give me hope." Like, he'd rather have closure on this instead of, like, having to fail again. Not that he was, like, part of the failure the first time, but, like, it's more painful for him to think that maybe this is reversible, and he doesn't want to deal with that, which I really like that they kind of acknowledged that. And then on the other side, you've got Tony Stark, who actually has something to lose, and a lot to lose. Like, he's one of the lucky ones. And he doesn't really have anything to gain. I mean, he lost Peter in the snap, but that's kind of small by comparison to having to risk leaving his wife and daughter now.
But I think that's what also pushed him, isn't it? Because he was, like, staring at Peter's picture before he decided, oh, let me, figure out time travel real quick.
Yeah, well, yeah, it didn't take him that long, but I really liked that it was still a struggle for him, though, and they kind of made it seem like for all the other characters, they were just kind of like, okay, dude, why not? Like, we can get it back, and I like that they acknowledged that, like, no, there's a lot of risk involved for him, and in the end, like, his fear ends up coming true with that, because he ends up dying without being able to live to see his daughter grow up and whatever.
To piggyback off of that, I wrote down 2 more moments I completely forgot to mention as best moments. Scarlet Witch bodying Thanos for, like, those few seconds or however long in the film before he brings the rain down, because she was gonna off him right there.
Yep.
She's, like, way more powerful in the comic books, and they dumbed her down for the movies, but she can essentially manipulate reality. Like, there's an entire comic book series, I think maybe House of M or something like that, where, like, mutants are, like, in charge or something.
Right, because she's part of the X-Men, right?
Yeah, she's Magneto's daughter.
Oh, right, because she's Quicksilver's brother.
But yeah, she was gonna kill him right then and there, and then her eyes started glowing red. I just thought that was really cool. And then, of course, I am Iron Man. I can't believe we completely forgot that.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Man, that's how their first movie ended, and this is kind of how.
Huge callback.
Yeah, that was
kind of perfect. That was something that one of the people I saw it with, one of their first reactions was like, this was a very satisfying movie. Like, it came full circle in so many ways. And that was one of the biggest ones of that.
That was it, though.
So the next topic is analyzing the movie in 3 different sections. So, Jay, this was your topic. What were you kind of getting at there?
So, I think it was hour by hour, because I guess it just kind of felt that way. But 3 different sections, as in the first section of the movie is apocalyptic, where everybody's dealing with the snap and everything like that. And then there's the time heist, when they go on the search for the stones and have all the Avengers together. And then there's the actual war at the end. Somebody, I think it was in like a comment section or something like that on Reddit or something, but somebody like said it was like watching 3 different movies in one. No, it was a YouTube video I was watching, Cosmonaut Variety Hour. I just kind of thought that was a good way to describe it.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about, I mean, when you say 3 different sections, normally you would think 3-act structure.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way you broke it down there, that could be a way to break it into 3-act structure. I don't know if it would fit into the normal template. But something I was thinking about was like, what do you... I mean, this is obviously kind of an atypical movie, given that like there's so much background to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was kind of wondering, if you're looking at it in a typical structure perspective, what's the inciting incident? Like, in some ways you could say the inciting incident is the snap, which happens beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Another one could be when they kill Thanos. That could kind of be the inciting incident. And then another one could even be when Scott comes back from the quantum realm.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't thought too much about this, but I think it would be interesting to look at the way that you structure it depending on which one of those you consider to be the inciting incident.
Maybe there were inciting incidents for each section. Either the snap or them killing Thanos for the first apocalyptic section, and Ant-Man coming back for the time heist, and I have no idea what... Maybe Thanos arriving.
The old Nebula bringing Thanos back through the time machine and shit hitting the fan.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the way in for the last part.
Mm-hmm.
It would be interesting to see the timed out parts of it, because that's a major thing with 3-act structure, is like when everything happens. Obviously that would be very different for a 3-hour movie.
And I think it still works as like, even though it's probably paced a little weird with like that whole time heist thing in the section, in the middle, is like, is all of it really necessary? I think you can definitely look at the end as like the climax or the third act of, like, looking at the movie as a whole instead of 3 different movies. You could look at that as it's definitely the climax, third section, third act, whatever. I guess that would be the midpoint, where the situation changes. Oh, we can go back in time and reverse everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, in some ways, I guess that could be considered a midpoint.
Yeah.
Did either of you notice how Ant-Man got back?
The rat.
The fucking rat.
The rat.
The rat destroyed Thanos.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking of it that way.
I wonder how many of those timelines that Doctor Strange saw where the rat...
This is the rat missing the key.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I guess it just would have happened eventually. It is a little bit of a coincidence.
Yeah.
Good that he finally kind of had something to do, though.
It's true.
In a way. Props again, as with Infinity War, to pacing things out and balancing the characters pretty well. Especially given that this is the send-off for a lot of people. They did a really good job focusing the amount of time to the right people. I wasn't huge, personally, on the whole thing where they went back to the 70s with Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. Mm-hmm. But I think if I were more invested in those characters, that would have been a good moment.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay that they put it in. I didn't get a lot out of it, personally, but they made good use of it.
I didn't see the first Avenger, the Captain America movie, and I think that's what I was kind of calling back to.
Yeah, it was.
There was the one, Peggy Carter.
Yeah, that was the one she was in.
That scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, if they needed a reason to get more time pods or whatever, I mean, I guess they can do that. They could have gone back to the Doctor before the snap.
Yeah, I think it was good, though, that, like, I thought a lot of the choices that were made in Infinity War from, like, a story perspective, I didn't think they made the best use of them. In this case, it didn't necessarily work for me in every situation, but I liked that they didn't necessarily do things that were, like, big action sequences or, like, cool moments or, like, advance the, like, overarching plot. They played up the emotion in this one in all cases. They did everything they could to make the emotion more tangible, which is, I was really glad that they did that. I think that made it a better experience for most fans.
There were so many sniffles in my theater, different points.
Oh, yeah.
Iron Man, Black Widow, especially. I don't know if my friends cried. I didn't ask, but I looked to my right and saw one of my friends looking a little glassy-eyed. I was trying so hard not to cry during some of those parts. It was...
Yeah, I think most of the people I saw it with cried at a couple points. I remember one person I saw it with had been before the rest of us and had like 4 moments.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what they were, but said like there were 4 moments that were like really poignant for them. I, for better or for worse, didn't. I'm not that invested. I have a feeling my version of this might come with the end of Game of Thrones. Got close on Game of Thrones a couple times, and I'm a lot more invested in that. But yeah, much better characters. Sorry to all you Marvel fans, but you know, Game of Thrones has you beat for characters. The next topic is the final battle, which we've talked about a little bit. I definitely want to go back and watch that scene again because there was just so much happening that I know that I missed.
Those large scale shots that they do, it kind of throws me back to like have you seen Ragnarok?
No.
I have.
So you know that scene where he comes crashing into the junkyard and it's just beautiful colors everywhere? That kind of detail is kind of what separates Marvel from other superhero movies and stuff like that. It's that ability, you know, to understand that people are going to be rewatching this and that they care enough. That kind of attention to detail, I love so much. And, you know, they do like the power pose or like the super slow-mo real quick of them leaping, you know, into battle. Mm-hmm. They did it during, I think it was the first Avengers, maybe during Infinity War as well. All of them kind of running towards...
Oh, I remember Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I know the shot you're talking about.
Age of Ultron.
And then there's obviously the one in the first Avengers movie, that iconic shot of the 6 of them standing in the circle. Mm-hmm. That's like the shot of the MCU. One thing from the first Avengers movie that I really wish not that they should have like called back to it, but one of my favorite moments in any MCU movie is during the Battle of New York. There's this one tracking shot where they like start with Black Widow and they show throughout this like 1 minute long tracking shot, they go through all 6 of the heroes doing something in the battle. And I really wish they'd had a couple of those, not that exactly, but some more of that where we kind of went through and saw what everyone was doing in the final battle. And like, they didn't really capitalize on it as much as I thought they could have.
Yeah, they kind of did that a little bit with Black Panther when he was running the Infinity Gauntlet to whoever. I forget who threw it to him, but I think he was trying to get it to Spider-Man or somebody.
Yeah.
Cool ass shot. He like punches the ground. Shit flies everywhere. It's awesome.
I think my favorite shot in the entire movie, and I need to find a wallpaper of it, is Thanos' army and Cap. It's just Cap standing alone with like the broken shield and Mjolnir in his other hand. I just love that shot so much. I don't know why, but I just do.
It's pretty cool. It's like the one against like the millions or whatever. Yeah, I do wish for the battle, though, that they could have done a little more with, like, collaborative fighting, because you've got, like, 30 different grab bags of powers here, and, like, so many interesting ways to combine them, and I feel like they haven't really done that much with that.
What did Mantis do?
What does Mantis do? I didn't see Guardians 2. Like, what's her deal?
She's an empath. She can sense how others are feeling, like, put people to sleep. That's about it. Like, what did she do against the aliens? Like, I was confused a little bit. Somebody mentioned on Reddit when they had the A4 shot and then they all started running. I was thinking, what was Mantis gonna do to the...
Punch really hard.
Yeah, she can touch their head and make them sleep.
Wasn't she doing that? She was just walking around touching people's heads and...
That's what I like to think.
Dropping them.
I mean, yeah.
Another tentacle she can get.
Oh, also, did I miss something where, like, Pepper is suddenly, like, fully capable in an Iron Man suit?
No.
I mean, like, maybe she learned it over those 5 years.
I'm gonna go with that, but, like, that seemed to kind of come out of nowhere.
I mean, she did have superpowers in Iron Man 3.
Well, she wears the suit at the 2... There were, like, 2 scenes in that where she wears one.
But I don't...
Maybe she was practicing since then. You know,
Probably.
That's
that sounds about right.
She knew Tony wouldn't stop, so might as well just join him.
Yeah. Family bonding. Everyone get in a suit.
The child has a suit, too.
Yeah.
Usually, Marvel can get me to kind of forget that they have backups, but for this movie, I kind of knew. So, like, when I saw that scene with, Cap, just with the broken shield by himself, I was like, where's Wakanda? Like, they have a whole art, like, they have people. So that I kind of did see coming. But when it came and, Doctor Strange brings them all in and you can see the different realms that these people are coming through, it was beautiful. It was one of those moments in a Marvel movie where you're like, they're going to kick some ass.
And then he said the thing.
He said the thing.
He said the thing.
I still am a little bit salty that they didn't do a bit more with that battle. It could have been a little longer. And for a 3-hour movie, we had the runtime.
Yep.
I'm sure it was a huge budget deal.
They also built Captain Marvel up to be like the savior, because she's essentially invincible.
Oh, right, because she like hole punches the ship like in Last Jedi.
No, I love that though, because that is immediately what she should do.
Yeah,
right.
So I'm glad that she comes and she just gets to business.
Yeah, good moment.
But she wasn't as focused on as people, as I thought she would be. You know, with her having the movie just before this, you know, I thought she'd be more of a key player. Like after she like fights with Thanos, I think it was either once or twice. She just gets knocked out by the power stone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I heard someone this past week mention, like, did you think Thanos was a little overpowered in this one because he didn't have the Infinity Stones and he was fighting seemingly harder? I was okay with it that he was, because, I mean, you want it to be a tough villain to beat.
I don't know what he classifies as in the MCU, but I know in the comics he's a demigod. He's, like, stronger than Thor, so he would definitely be able to handle them anyway.
Wow.
But without the Infinity Stones...
Like, even without it. Like, he was born as a...
Right, but, like, I mean, if there were... I felt like the 3-on-1 with Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America, they could have done... If that had gone on longer, maybe, they could have won against him at his base.
Yeah, probably.
I like to think back to, like, Infinity War with the combat between, you know, Thanos and the Hulk in the very beginning.
Oh, yeah.
He only had, what, like 1 or 2 stones?
And he didn't use them.
He didn't use them.
Exactly.
So that kind of put where my standard was for him. And I knew he could kick ass because he could take on the Hulk.
I got the sense he was a little overpowered, but I was okay with him doing that because, I mean, I'd rather have a good villain that's hard to beat than it be, like, you can't really talk about realism that much when it's a movie with a talking tree. Yeah. So, you know.
Wait.
No real gripe with that.
Groot in the final battle? I don't remember seeing Groot.
He doesn't show up a lot, but he is there.
Or Drax. Or
they're actually there. They just don't get a lot of attention.
They don't.
Oh, that's sad.
See, that was kind of the
we'll
thing.
see them in Volume 3.
Okay.
Right. I mean, they don't give a lot of attention
to
the newer characters, but, like, I don't know. I feel like you could have gotten, like, a little bit of everyone doing stuff. Like, there are, you know, Lord of the Rings has a lot of characters like this, and they managed to do that in some of their bigger battles. So, like, I think they could have done it.
I think if they notched down the nostalgia just a bit and used that towards probably the final battle, like in terms of screen time, I think that probably would have just made it that much better.
Yeah. It's a small gripe, and I wasn't, like... I didn't have, like, huge stakes set in this movie. Like, I hope it's not going to be my favorite movie that comes out this year, if that makes sense. So then the next topic is, like, the deaths and the age outs and what we think, like, the future of the franchise is going to be.
Doesn't that also kind of ties in with the end of an era, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll tie it in with that, too. So also, like, the Infinity Saga as, like, a whole. So I think I forget who was telling it to me, but this past week someone mentioned, like, if you look at when Iron Man, like, discovers the thing for time travel, if you look at the thing at a certain angle, it looks like an infinity symbol.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a sense, like, at the end of the credits, it has the sound of Iron Man, like, hammering his first suit together, which some people are reading as, like, resetting, and, like, it'll kind of, it's like a cycle that will repeat itself, and just kind of close the circle in a way. And then we've got the whole thing with Sam Wilson maybe being the new Captain America.
I don't think that's a maybe. I think that's...
Oh, it's a definite?
Yeah, because
I think so too.
Anthony Mackie either tweeted or it was in an article and they transcribed it. He was speaking about how happy he is playing Captain America for the future and how, like, it's good representation for his sons and everything like that. So it's pretty much confirmed.
I think he's going to be a very different take on Captain America because he's got, like, such a different personality.
I hope so. I don't want the same Cap.
Yeah, I don't want a Boy Scout.
I mean,
one of the best parts of comics.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not huge on Captain America as a character. He feels really two-dimensional.
Also, isn't it shield kind of heavy, or is it super light? I don't know, like, how heavy vibranium is That's the metal it's made out of.
Well, right, but I mean,
Cap is like a super dude, right?
Yeah, but Falcon isn't. So
okay,
he's got a. I mean, he's
he's
not
just super
like,
buff.
yeah, from flying all around and
and
stuff. That's it.
I mean, they'll make it work. Maybe they don't need to give him roids like they did with Steve Rogers, but I'm sure they'll make it work.
Mm.
In terms of like I was wondering what they're going to do with like the main ones who are still alive, like War Machine and Bruce Banner.
Hawkeye.
Yeah, well, I think Hawkeye's probably going to go back to his family.
He's just
like there's kind of a route for him, but with like Bruce Banner, what's he going to do?
Good point. Who else is that? Is that it from the like original 6?
I mean, if you want to consider War Machine as one of them, because was he one of the ones that they had like the signature for at the end? Don Cheadle.
I don't remember.
I think they did.
I mean, if we're still talking about Cap, we can get into the choosing to not come back.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about that ending?
For some reason, I didn't see that coming, and I was wondering who they were actually looking at. So when they revealed that, was that CGI or was that another actor?
I think it was definitely CGI.
Yeah.
You could tell from the mannerisms that it was him.
Yeah, I thought it was fitting, but again, also I didn't see the Captain America movie, so I can't put a lot into how I felt about it.
I saw it. I forget what I saw. It's muddled in my head like Captain Marvel and the first 2 Thors. Like I can't remember what those films were about.
You mean Captain America and the first 2 Thors? Captain Marvel?
No, Captain Marvel. No, I can't remember Captain
For
Marvel.
real?
There was a cat. I remember that.
I remember there was a cat and she fought some ships. That film, as soon as I walked out of the theater, I mean, hey, completely forgot more than half of it.
Alien has a cat and they fight on some ships.
And that's how Nick Fury got his eye patch. That's about it. But yeah, the first Avenger, I can't remember much from it, but I did think it was a fitting ending for Cap. I was like, wait, after the war was over, I was like, wait, they're not going to kill him, but Chris Evans signed off on Twitter, so what the heck did that tweet mean? And then the shock of him not coming back from the time machine, I was like, oh, wait, did he die in the past? And then he was on the bench, and I was like, oh, he's just old now. Cool.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll have him cameo as an old dude?
It's possible.
I honestly think they might do that. Yeah. Even just for like wise advice or banter like in the headquarters. I thought
a possible theory was that they weren't going to kill Thanos at all. Like they were just going to imprison him because that's what heroes do. And then he would just like cameo throughout the rest of the Marvel movies. Like there's a bigger bad like Galactus or Doctor Doom and they don't know what to do, so they go visit him in this prison or whatever he's being held in. And like, hey, what do we do? And he's like, why would I help you? Or whatever. I don't know. I just thought that was a possible thing. But
okay.
Yeah, they really did not focus much on Thanos in this one.
That's why I said Infinity War was more his movie.
Yeah. That's definitely. I was okay that they didn't focus much on him. I thought he got even more generic in this one.
Yeah. He was way scarier though. For me, he like terrified me because he didn't complete his goals, so he was much more ambitious and bloodthirsty. Like he was. I don't think it felt like that before, even in Infinity War. But
well, kind of from his perspective, if you take it like him in, they go to like 2014 for him. I think, right?
2013, 2014, whatever.
Well, whichever. He hasn't gotten any yet, and then he just finds out that like from the future he's successful. So that's going to be a huge confidence booster.
True.
Like really unrelated movie, but either of you have seen Big Fish?
No.
Well, early on in the movie, when the guy's like 10 years old, he finds out the way he's going to die. And throughout the rest of the movie, he's like, all right, well, I'll do this because I know it won't kill me. And then, like, it really changes, like, that's not the whole premise of the movie, but it does change the way he lives. And I feel like Thanos might have had something like that. They're like, all right, well, no matter what happens, I get the job done. So, I thought if you kind of take a look at these movies as a whole, I really like that they have, like, the quantity of characters that they do and that they, like, play off each other, and it's not like one person doing things like in solo superhero movies. It feels kind of more true to life, where like in a lot, like especially in some of like the big fight scenes, it's like one character like comes up clutch for another at certain points, and then they like both kind of save each other, and sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. I just feel like that's a good metaphor, especially if you like. I don't know. I can't really get invested in these characters that much unless I like project people I know onto them. So like, I don't know. I think that's kind of a fun thing to do. And you kind of need this big of a universe to do that. So I think it's a good outlet for that. Once again, Thrones does it better, but this is this has a bit more of an established fan base, and it does a good job. I don't think they could have done better with this last installment. So in that sense, props to them.
Yeah,
Definitely.
And I thought it was a good decision that like they have a climax to the series, and even though they're going to keep going with it, they kind of are ending it in a way here, which is better than like fizzling out the way like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies did, where they like tried to keep it going and then people kind of lost interest. So to anyone who is trying to make something big, please don't try to top this if you're Marvel or anyone else, because like it won't work, I think.
You should never go into making a movie with the idea you want to top something else, because that just is like, it's not even like flattery. It's just pretty much copying them and trying to do the same magic that was done before.
Did you guys see Far From Home, the trailer?
I did, yeah, the new one with the spoilers.
Yeah.
Not huge on the idea that they might be bringing in like the multiverse, because Into the Spider-Verse just did it, and please don't mess with Into the Spider-Verse because it was awesome.
That might be how they bring the X-Men and Fantastic Four in, though, because of the Fox merger.
I'm a little checked out if they do that. I mean, I'm a little checked out at this point anyway. I'll go to other ones if like there are people who want to go, but I'm not gonna watch these voluntarily, like anything coming after.
It could just be a fake out. Like Mysterio, this is spoilers for you two. I don't know if you guys know Mysterio in the comics.
I don't care about spoilers. Okay. Anyone who's listening, you can tune out.
Mysterio is they portray him like he portrays himself as a hero, but he's making these disasters happen.
Yeah.
So he can. It's like Syndrome from The Incredibles.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
So he's a villain. And
a little hesitant about them bringing Jake Gyllenhaal in.
He was supposed to be like Spider-Man at some point, I think.
Yeah, I think he was also auditioning to be the Joker or something. I feel like he's a little too good of an actor to be in a superhero movie. I'm sorry if people are insulted if I say that, but that...
Yeah, I don't think that's possible. I think he can just be a good actor in a superhero movie.
Oh, but DiCaprio's never been in a superhero movie.
His turn's coming. They're gonna get him.
Nah. No, if he was going to be in one, he would have been in one.
Well,
by
like
this
here's
point.
the thing, especially with like DC, they're starting to make these like dark, sophisticated horror movies, like with Joaquin Phoenix. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they start to go down like the awards.
But see, Joaquin Phoenix is another actor who's just you don't need him to make a good Joker movie. Like I'll watch a movie because Joaquin Phoenix is in it, and I know he's going to be awesome.
I think they're doing that because of the failure with Leto, though.
Oh, they're
trying to make up for
great.
that. Yeah, they're trying to make up for that, though. I feel with Joaquin as the lead, they're trying to go back to like Heath Ledger, like as far as portraying the Joker in a realistic light. And
I don't know if they started the Joker movie after Leto and like the negative reviews, but I definitely think it's going to help help DC.
They definitely, I'm sure they made changes based on it.
Yeah.
And made sure to be careful with casting. But then, I mean, people were upset about Heath Ledger getting cast as the Joker, and now that's hailed as like an iconic performance.
Where do we think this is all going? Like after Far From Home, do you think there'll be another big bad villain? My guesses are like Doctor Doom or Galactus, because they're like anybody that can top Thanos you have to think of.
I don't know that they, as I was kind of saying, I don't think they should necessarily try to top Thanos. Go for it with another Avengers movie with the newer people. I may not go see it. I'm thinking I'm going to kind of max out and don't really care what they do next.
A lot of people are signing off at Endgame right now, because like my gaming professor said he was kind of like sick of Marvel movies. Like, people just drag him to them, and he was going to cap out an Endgame regardless, and he's glad he saw it, of course, but I feel like a lot of, not Marvel fans, of course, but just a lot of the general public is just going to sign off at this because they feel like it's done.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with like Marvel doing what they're doing, but now everyone's trying to do what they're doing, which I find is like kind of a problem. Like, if you look at the movies that were kind of big and hailed as decent or like great last year, and then compare that to like 10-ish years ago, you look at the makeup of like movies we remember from say like 2006. I have a big thing with 2006 is like the best movie year of all time, but that's like a personal thing. But you look at like the movies that are remembered from 2006 and the movies that are probably going to be remembered from last year, and last year's is like all tentpole movies, which I don't feel great about.
What kind of movies?
Tentpole movies, like huge $100 million+ box office.
Okay.
They call it a tentpole, I think, because it's like the one. It used to be like the one movie that the studio got most of its money from, but now like it feels like everything is that.
Yeah.
And everyone's trying to make that and do like crossover universes with like a couple weeks from now, Godzilla's coming out with like, and he's fighting 5 different monsters, and then he's gonna fight King Kong in like a couple of years, I think. So I don't like the impact that Marvel has had on the industry.
There's also the Dark Universe. I don't know who that's under, but The Mummy and one other film.
They're not doing great financially.
I know. That was like their plan. It was a Universal.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
But like, I kind of think Marvel is the only one who can really do what they're doing well. Other people are making a good attempt, but
DC? I know their movies aren't that great, but I feel like if anybody can compete with them, it would be their comic book competitor.
Should be, but...
Yeah.
Maybe, but I really hope that this doesn't... I feel like it's detracting from the success of movies by, like, auteurs. Like, we haven't seen a David Fincher movie in a few years. I think maybe that's because no one wants... Like, he's not enough of a draw anymore, even though his movies are awesome, and some of them made a lot of money. Like, the industry is just moving in a direction that I'm not huge on. So I hope that now that we've peaked here, maybe it will start trending a little differently. Probably not going to happen, but I'm hopeful.
You guys think Endgame is going to top Avatar?
Well, as we're recording this right now, today's May 8th. It is the second biggest grossing movie of all time. I want to say
2.28 or something like that.
Yeah, so it's like 500 million below Avatar. I think it could. I'm not sure if I want it to. I kind of do, just to like be a testament to how much of a success the MCU is.
Name 3 characters from Avatar.
Oh, I actually know that movie pretty well. Natiri.
Oh, God.
I've seen it like 4 times.
Evan, it was supposed to be a joke.
I can.
Because I think that film was like pretty forgettable.
Quaritch. A fake blue one.
Exactly.
The bird.
Yep.
Evil army dude.
Yep.
All right.
And the tree. The tree counts as a character. That's
okay.
All right. Well, I'll show you all up. Awa is a character.
Oh.
Yes, that counts. Taruk
Is that their
Makto.
god?
Jake Sully. Yeah, kind of. But like, and then Natiri and Quaritch.
Who?
So what's up? Quaritch is the dude with the scars on his face. That's like the villain.
I didn't know he had a name. I thought he was just army villain guy.
Okay, you're not wrong that it was forgettable in a lot of ways, but I mean,
It looked pretty.
It looked pretty, and it had a green message. Although I do find it ironic that James Cameron, who's made, well, it used to be top 2 last week, but now 2 of the 3 biggest grossing movies of all time, made Avatar, which is like all anti-corporate. It's a little ironic.
I was maybe because that's a YouTuber I watched, Jack's Films, did a video where he was asking people name a character from Avatar, and nobody could name a character from Avatar.
I mean, it's
he really wants Endgame to beat Avatar as the top grossing, and because he thinks Avatar was just a really forgettable movie and a tech demo, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I hope the people making Avatar 2 don't expect it to perform as well, because I'm calling it now, it won't.
Yeah, no way.
We will link to Mike's article in the show notes. If you want to send in comments, you can leave reviews on iTunes and subscribe to the podcast there. Also, for longer comments, or if you can't find anywhere else to do it, send in comments to me at erw58@drexel.edu. Thanks to Isabella Akhtarshanas for doing the logo. We have stickers. If you want one, ask me or Carla for one of them, and we'll hook you up. Upcoming episodes, we'll be doing Amelie, and then probably a few months down the line, we're going to be doing a bigger 2 or 3 episodes on Harry Potter, the books, not the movies. Is there anywhere you guys want people to reach you if they have questions or anything?
Based Phoenix on Instagram, BASEDPHOENIX on Instagram, and then my full name, Jelani T. Kelly on Twitter.
Okay.
I don't really tweet, but I have like pictures and stuff on Instagram of like art I do.
All right, yeah, and in that sense, if you want to find more of Jay's drawings, pick up a triangle any week.
That
and
too, yeah.
If you're on Drexel's campus, he does some, or maybe even most, I think, of the comics every week.
Yeah, let's just say I'm a big part of it.
Yeah, a big part of it. Okay. And Mike?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn under Michael Raffle, or you can follow me at Mike Raffle, but spelled with a Y, so MYKERAFFLE.
So thank you both for coming on, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.